There is a moment, and you know this moment, when the whole world goes still around you and something inside your chest quietly shifts, like a key turning in a lock you forgot was even there. Not a dramatic collapse, not a lightning bolt, just a stillness, a settling, the kind that reaches underneath the noise of your daily life and touches something you have been protecting for a very long time. That is not anxiety. That is not wishful thinking. That is the fingerprint of heaven pressing gently against the part of you that has waited, sometimes without knowing what you were waiting for, sometimes almost giving up on the idea that anything this real could ever find its way to you. And in that stillness, something sacred is already moving. You have spent so much time in houses that did not feel like home. And I do not mean only the buildings. I mean the relationships, the rooms inside certain people's company where you would arrive carrying everything you had, your day, your wounds, your quiet excitement about something you could not quite put into words, and you would be met with nothing. Not cruelty necessarily. Sometimes it was just an absence, a wall dressed up as a person. You would walk through the door and the air would not change. No one looked up, no one shifted toward you. The table was full, and yet somehow you were eating alone, sitting in the middle of a crowd and feeling the specific particular ache of being unseen by the very people who were supposed to see you most clearly. That ache has a texture. It is not sharp. It is heavy. It sits in your sternum like a stone that never fully dissolves. And over time, you simply learn to carry it without mentioning it, because mentioning it never seemed to help. You learn to make the hunger disappear. You learn to smile through the dinners and the holidays and the gatherings where everyone else seemed to fit together like pieces of a puzzle. And you were sitting at the edge of the table wondering why the same blood, the same roof, the same last name somehow produced in you someone so fundamentally different. You started to believe that difference was the problem. That if you could just sand down your edges, lower your frequency, stop wanting so deeply, stop feeling so fully, maybe then you would belong. Maybe then the room would shift when you walked in. But every time you tried to make yourself smaller, you felt something inside you dim, quietly, painfully, like a light being slowly turned down. And still, no one noticed, because the people who needed you to be small were not looking for your light. They were afraid of it. That is why in the trilogy, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, the link is in the pinned comment, I explain exactly why the chosen ones are always the ones made to feel like the problem, because the light inside you does not just illuminate the room. It exposes what has been hiding in the corners, and there are people, sometimes the people closest to you, who have built entire identities in those corners. Your existence alone is a disruption to their comfort. That is not your fault. That is your anointing. And the love that God is sending into your life right now is being sent precisely because you have survived being misunderstood by the people who should have understood you most. And you are still standing. You are still soft. You are still open. That is a miracle. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Now hear me on this, and let it reach the place in you that has grown tired of bracing for impact. There is a person who carries your name like a quiet prayer that they have not yet spoken out loud. And the reason they have not spoken it yet is not because they are unsure. It is because they are undone by it. What they feel for you does not fit inside the language of casual affection. It does not fit inside the timeline everyone around them expected. The age difference was visible. The circumstances were inconvenient by every measurable standard. The logical voices were numerous and loud and did not lack for good arguments. And yet, every time they tried to close the door, something in them refused. Not stubbornly, not recklessly, but with the quiet, persistent gravity of something that was placed there by hands larger than their own. The spirit does not consult the rational mind before it recognizes home, and something in this person recognized you. Not the version of you that you have been carefully presenting to the world, the edited, composed, acceptable version, but the real one. The one beneath the performance, the one that absorbs pain without surrendering its softness, the one that has been hurt so many times and somehow remains capable of wonder. That is not a small thing. That is a rare thing. That is the kind of thing that reaches into a person and rearranges what they thought they wanted from their life. It is holy friction. It is the sacred disruption that God uses to redirect someone away from the comfortable but empty road and toward the one that actually leads somewhere worth going. And you, somewhere in you, you have felt this too. You have felt the inexplicable pull of it, the way a thought about this person arrives at strange hours, not with the dramatic ache of obsession, but with the quiet warmth of something real. You have talked yourself out of it. You are skilled at talking yourself out of things that feel too good, because the people who wounded you early taught you that good things do not stay, that love is a loan with interest, that the moment you allow yourself to fully receive something beautiful, that is precisely the moment it gets taken away. So your protection strategy has been to stay slightly ahead of the loss, to not want too much, to not hope too loudly, to build a ceiling on your own joy so that the fall, when it inevitably came, would not destroy you. That strategy kept you alive, but it was never meant to be permanent. It was a season, and this season is closing. You are not too much. Let me say that again in a different way, so it lands in a different part of you. The depth that people called too sensitive was discernment. The intensity that made others uncomfortable was clarity. The love you poured out that was never returned in equal measure was not wasted. It was sowing. And there is a harvest law that does not bend for human cruelty or indifference or the particular brand of smallness that some people call wisdom. What you have sown in love, in patience, in genuine care, given to people who did not deserve the level of tenderness you offered, that does not disappear. It accumulates. It waits. And God, who does not miss a single thing you have silently endured, is not operating on the world's timeline. He is operating on the one that ends in your flourishing. The obstacles that have surrounded this love did not arrive to prevent it. They arrived to consecrate it. Think of Joseph. His brothers did not celebrate him. They despised the coat. They despised the dreams. They despised the anointing they could feel radiating off of him, even when they did not have words for what they were sensing. So they put him in a pit. They sold him. They constructed a story to explain his absence and went back to eating their dinner. And Joseph endured the pit and the palace and the prison and the years of silence, and the entire time God was not absent. God was architecting. Every betrayal was a corridor. Every closed door was a rerouting. What the brothers meant for reduction, God was using for elevation. And when the moment of fulfillment arrived, it arrived at a level that no human strategy could have built, because no human strategy was powerful enough to have designed the suffering that preceded it, and therefore no human strategy could claim credit for what the suffering produced. That is your story. The people who dismissed you, the rooms that went cold when you walked in, the love that was offered and refused and offered again and refused again, none of it was the final word. It was the corridor. And corridors do not exist for their own sake. They exist because there is a room at the end of them, and the room at the end of your corridor is not a consolation prize assembled from the leftover materials of a smaller dream. It is the room that was always meant for you, the one that fits the full dimension of who you are, not the compressed version you learned to inhabit to survive other people's discomfort with your light. Now I want to speak directly to the wound that lives inside the experience of being the different one, the one at the table who noticed what no one else noticed, the one who felt the undercurrent of a conversation before anyone else acknowledged it was there, the one who would cry at things that made others roll their eyes, who cared about people who had long since stopped caring about themselves, who carried an internal world so rich and so layered that the surface of ordinary life often felt too thin to hold the weight of your real interior. You were called too sensitive. You were told you think too much. You were handed criticism, wrapped in the costume of concern, advice-shaped knives delivered with a smile, redirection disguised as wisdom from people who were, if you look clearly at it now, simply threatened by the possibility that you might be right about things they had been wrong about for years. The envy that dressed itself as guidance was real, and it cost you something. It planted doubt in soil that should have grown certainty. It made you second-guess the very gifts that were placed inside you with purpose. When someone consistently tells you that your sensitivity is a liability, what they are really telling you is that your sensitivity makes them feel something they do not want to feel. Your presence holds up a mirror, and some people would rather shatter the mirror than reckon with the reflection. That is not your burden to carry. That was never your burden. But you carried it anyway because you were young and they were older, and authority has a way of writing its sentences on the soft pages of a child's understanding of themselves before that child has developed the capacity to edit those sentences with truth. But you are not a child anymore, and the sentences can be rewritten, not by erasing the pain. The pain was real, the experiences were real, the wounds left evidence, but by understanding now, from a place of greater clarity, that the criticism was never about your deficiency, it was about their fear. And fear, when it is old enough and unexamined enough, learns to disguise itself with extraordinary sophistication. It learns to sound like love. It learns to quote scripture. It learns to use the word realistic and the word practical and the word concerned as shields while it does the quiet work of diminishment. You are allowed to name that now. You are allowed to say, that was not love. That was fear wearing love's clothing, and I do not have to keep wearing the identity it tried to dress me in. As I teach deeply in the material, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, I left the link for you in the pinned comment. This pain is not the end of your story. It is the exact texture of the soil from which a chosen one rises. The black sheep was never the broken one. The black sheep was always the one whose design did not match the pattern of the flock. Not because something was wrong with the design, but because the design was meant for a different destination. You were not made to graze where they grazed. You were not made to be content with what contented them. The discomfort you felt in spaces that should have felt like home was not malfunction, it was direction. It was the compass inside you pointing towards somewhere they were never going. And the needle's refusal to settle was not a flaw, it was faithfulness. David was anointed in a field while his brothers were at the table. Samuel arrived at Jesse's house looking for a king, and Jesse did not even call David in from the pasture when the prophet came. The boy tending the sheep was not in the room when the power arrived. He was outside, doing what the forgotten ones do. He was still working, still faithful, still present in his assigned place without an audience, without applause, without anyone acknowledging that what he was doing had value. And God said, "Send for him. Bring him in. The one your father did not think to call, that is the one I have chosen." That is the pattern. That is the signature move of a God who does not select based on the criteria of rooms that have decided who belongs. He walks past the room and calls the one standing outside it. You have been standing outside rooms your whole life, and you have spent years interpreting that as rejection. But hear this with the full weight of what I am saying. It was not rejection, it was reservation. God was keeping you from settling into spaces that would have consumed your gifts in service of other people's comfort. He was holding you in the field, in the quiet, in the loneliness that felt like abandonment, because the field was where your character was being formed away from the corrupting influence of premature recognition. The people in the room would have diluted you. Their approval would have become addictive. Their standard would have become your ceiling. and your ceiling is not their ceiling. Your ceiling requires a foundation they could not have provided. So he kept you outside, not as punishment, as preparation. And now in this season, something is moving toward you that does not fit inside the category of the things you have known before. The love being woven toward you is not the kind that needs you to earn it daily. It is not the kind that withdraws when you stop performing. It is not the kind that comes with an unspoken list of conditions printed in invisible ink that you are only allowed to discover when you have already violated one. This love was grown in resistance. It was tested by distance and logic and the full weight of social expectation, and it survived all of it, not because it was stubborn, but because it was rooted. What is rooted deeply does not fall when the wind comes. It bends, it groans. It looks from the outside like it might not make it, but the root holds. And when the storm passes, the tree is still there. That person, the one who has been rehearsing a confession they have not yet delivered, is not going to hand you something fragile. They are going to hand you something that has already been through fire, that has already faced the gauntlet of their own doubts, their own fears, the voices of people around them who raised eyebrows and offered cautionary tales and referenced the age and the circumstances and the complexity. And through all of that, what they feel for you did not diminish. It grew, because that is what truth does. In the presence of opposition, it does not wither, it clarifies. The opposition removes everything that was not essential, and what remains after the fire is the pure thing. And the pure thing is what is moving toward you now. Do not let old fear make you close the door before it arrives. I know the impulse. I know it intimately. The one that says, if I allow myself to believe this, I will be destroyed when it is taken away. The one that has its roots in every time you opened a door expecting warmth and found cold air. Every time you extended trust and had it handed back to you broken. The body remembers those moments even when the mind tries to move past them. The nervous system files them under danger. And so love, when it arrives, triggers the alarm, not because it is dangerous, but because it resembles in its warmth, the warmth you reached for before and burned yourself on. But this is not that. And deep in the part of you that is connected to something beyond your own history, you already know that. You already know the difference between the thing that will hurt you and the thing that was made to heal you. You have always known. Trust what you know. The protective removals in your life, the relationships that ended in ways that felt like devastation, the doors that closed with what felt like finality, the seasons that stripped away people and places that you had organized your identity around, those were not punishments. I need you to hear that and let it replace the story you have been telling yourself about those losses. They were protection. God does not always remove what harms you by making it obviously harmful first. Sometimes he removes it while it still looks good on the surface, while it still carries the familiar scent of what you have known, while it still wears the face of something you love. Because if he waited for it to become obviously toxic, you would endure unnecessary damage. He sees the trajectory you cannot see. He sees where that road ends. And because his love for you is not abstract, it is active, it is involved, it is surgical. He removes the thing before it reaches the destination it was always heading for. The grief of those removals was real. Do not dismiss it. Do not spiritually bypass the actual weight of having loved something and lost it, having built around something and watched it come apart. The grief is part of the story. But grief, when it is metabolized with honesty, becomes wisdom. It becomes the deep knowing of what was and what was not, what you genuinely miss and what you realize. In quieter moments, you were mostly mourning for the idea of, for the version of it that you had hoped it would become, rather than the reality of what it actually was. And there is a particular grief, the grief of releasing not just the thing, but the hope for the thing. That is the one God asks you to sit with long enough to really let go. Because you cannot carry the next chapter with your hands still full of the one He already closed. Do not look back at the old fire. I say this with full awareness of what I am asking. Lot's wife turned. She had been warned. She had heard the instruction. And the pull of what was behind her, not because it was good, but because it was known, because it was hers, because it contained the architecture of her entire previous life, was stronger in that moment than the promise ahead. She turned, and the turning cost her everything, not as punishment from a cruel God, but as the natural consequence of a heart that cannot simultaneously live in two directions. You cannot walk fully into what God is opening while your face is turned toward what He has closed. The neck cannot sustain that position. The soul cannot sustain that position. At some point, you must choose the direction of your face. Choose forward. Choose the unfamiliar warmth of what is coming over the familiar coldness of what is behind you. This requires a courage that the world does not celebrate, because the world celebrates the ones who fight to keep what they have, not the ones who trust enough to release what God has already released. But you were not designed for the world's applause. You were designed for the deep satisfaction of moving in alignment with the purpose embedded in you before you had a name. And that purpose requires you to be present, fully present in this new season, not mentally living in the past, not emotionally encamped at the site of old wounds, but here, now, open. The solitude you have known, the particular quality of being alone, not just in body, but in the experience of your own interior life, of having a universe inside you that you could not seem to share with anyone who would understand it. That solitude is ending, not because it failed, but because it succeeded. It did what solitude does for the chosen ones. It deepened you. It developed in you capacities that company would have diluted. It forced you into a relationship with your own soul that most people never achieve, because they fill every silence with noise before the silence can do its refining work. You sat in it. You endured it. Sometimes you raged against it and then returned to it. And in that crucible, something was forged in you that is rare and that cannot be manufactured on a faster timeline. It is ready now, and the people who are meant to receive it are being positioned. Your new tribe is not found. They are being woven toward you with the same intentionality with which a master craftsman threads the needle before beginning the work. They will recognize you in ways that the old rooms never did. Not because they are looking for someone unusual, but because they themselves carry the same frequency. The one that has been isolated and refined and made ready for connection, that does not require either of you to be smaller than you are. Connection that can hold the full weight of your real self without flinching, that does not demand you edit your depth to make the room comfortable. You have never needed less depth. You have needed a deeper room, and God is building it. This love that is moving toward you, let it arrive on its own terms. Do not rush it and do not retreat from it. You have rushed before out of hunger. You have retreated before out of fear. Both were understandable. Both were human. But this season calls for something different, a grounded, open, expectant stillness. The kind that Ruth demonstrated in the field. She did not chase Boaz. She did not retreat from the field. She simply remained faithful to her assignment and allowed the one who was watching from the threshing floor to see her character in full. The watching happened before the words. The recognition happened in the consistency of her presence. You do not need to perform for what is coming. You need to continue being exactly who you are, in the full, unedited version, with the courage that comes from knowing that who you are is precisely what this is drawn toward. The chains that were passed down to you through blood, the patterns of worthlessness, the learned smallness, the epigenetic inheritance of people who were also unseen and who passed their unseenness down to you as a kind of warped legacy. Those chains were never yours to keep. They were handed to you, yes. You wore them, yes. But they were not forged for your wrists. They were forged for a lineage that ended with you. You are the one in your line who breaks what was broken before. The one who looks at what was handed down and says, "This ends here." Not in bitterness, not in judgment of the people who could not see further than their own wounds allowed them to see, but in the quiet, firm authority of someone who has been given enough light to recognize a cage and enough courage to walk out of it. What God stitches into the fabric of two souls cannot be unraveled by circumstance, not by age or timing or the arithmetic of the world's expectations, not by the skeptics in your family or the raised eyebrows of people whose understanding of love was always transactional. What is authored in heaven is not subject to the editing of earth. And this, what is moving between you and the one who has been quietly, persistently, undeniably drawn to you, was authored somewhere deeper than either of you had access to when it began. That is why it survived the attempts to close it. That is why it endured the seasons of silence and the weight of uncertainty. That is why, after everything, it is still here, still moving, still building toward the moment when it becomes undeniable not just to the two of you, but to every room that ever doubted your right to be loved this well. You were never the outcast. You were the one being held in reserve for something the room was not ready for yet, and the room is finally ready. The season has turned. The ground beneath your story has shifted in the way that only God can shift the ground, quietly, without announcement, without asking your permission, without waiting for you to believe it was possible. It is already done in the dimension where all things are done before they are seen. What you are living now is simply the timeline catching up to the heavenly decree. Stay open. Stay present. Do not explain yourself to rooms that were never meant to understand you. Do not audition for love that should already know your name. What is for you is moving with a purpose that does not require your anxiety to accelerate it. It requires only your willingness to receive it. What God authored, He finishes. And He's finishing something extraordinary in your life right now. The loneliness was a chapter, not the story. The rejection was a corridor, not the destination. The pain was a seed, not a grave. And you, exactly as you are, with every scar and every gift and every depth that was ever called too much, you are the harvest. You were always the harvest. If you study the trilogy, The Three Keys to a Prosperous Life, which link is in the pinned comment, you will see that everything you have walked through, the invisible dinners, the silent cries, the rooms that went cold, the love you gave that was not returned, the anointing that was envied and attacked and called by lesser names, every single piece of it was building toward a life that operates on a frequency the world does not know how to price. The link is in the pinned comment. Do not scroll past it. The keys I have placed in that material are not information. They are activation. They are written for the person who has survived what you have survived and is ready, finally, fully ready, to stop surviving and start inhabiting the life that was always intended. Go there now. What is waiting for you on the other side of that decision is not a program. It is a doorway. And on the other side of the doorway is the version of your story that God has been writing all along. And yet, even now, even in this moment, where something in you is beginning to believe again, there is a part of you that hesitates. A part that has been the responsible one, the careful one, the one who learned through repeated experience that hope is expensive and the bill always comes due. That part of you is not your enemy. It was your guardian through seasons when you genuinely needed guarding. It stood at the door of your heart when the door had been broken off its hinges too many times, and it said, "Not yet, not this one, not again." And it kept you functional. It kept you moving. It deserves acknowledgement, not contempt. But it also deserves to be gently, firmly relieved of a duty it was never designed to hold permanently. The guardian was meant for the winter, and winter is over. The body holds the history of every room that went cold. It remembers the specific texture of the Thanksgiving table, where you laughed at the right moments and said the right things and felt, underneath all of it, the specific ache of being a stranger in a house that had your last name on the mailbox. The body remembers the shower where the crying happened. Not the performative kind, not the kind you let people see, but the deep, structural kind that comes from somewhere older than words, the kind that shakes the shoulders and tightens the throat and leaves you standing under the water long after it has gone cold, because the water was the only thing that felt like it was touching you. The body remembers all of it, and healing is not the erasure of what the body remembers. Healing is the moment the body learns that it is safe to remember without bracing, safe to feel the echo of the old pain without interpreting the echo as a prophecy about the future. You are allowed to be healed. Say that to yourself in whatever quiet space you inhabit after you finish reading this. You are allowed to be healed, not as a reward for suffering enough, not as a graduation from a program you completed correctly, but simply because the God who made you is a healer by nature, and it is not in his character to leave what he loves in the condition that the world left it in. He finds you in the pit, like he found Joseph. He finds you in the grief, like he found Ruth. He finds you in the desert, like he found Elijah under the juniper tree, exhausted and asking to die. And he does not rebuke the exhaustion. He does not lecture the prophet for his honesty. He touches him, he feeds him. He says, "The journey is too great for you. Rest." And then, when the rest has done its work, he gives the next direction. That is who you are dealing with. Not a God who demands that you arrive at the next chapter already healed and already whole and already performing correctly. A God who meets you in the exhaustion and provides what is needed for the journey ahead. The journey ahead is real. It is not a metaphor, and it is not a vague spiritual concept floating untethered from your actual daily life. It has specific textures. It has a person in it who sees you. It has mornings that do not begin with the weight of feeling fundamentally out of place in your own existence. It has conversations that go deep without you having to apologize for the depth. It has the particular joy, and this joy is one you may not have tasted in full yet, so let me describe it as precisely as I can. The particular joy of being known and wanted at the same time. Not known and tolerated, not wanted for what you can provide, known, fully known in the complicated, layered, sometimes contradictory fullness of who you actually are, and wanted specifically because of that knowing, not in spite of it. That is the joy that is being prepared. That is the room being built, and you are allowed to want it without guilt. The ones who were meant to go have gone. Some of them left loudly, with damage and noise and the kind of exit that leaves debris across years. Some of them left quietly, a slow withdrawal that you watched happen and could not stop, a fading that eventually became absent so gradually that you could not name the exact